MacVoices is supported by ATTO, the power behind the storage. ATTO brings performance you can trust to your Mac. No matter which Mac you prefer, you can trust ATTO to provide the latest macOS drivers and tools to meet your needs. To learn how ATTO provides performance you can trust for your Mac, visit atto.com. Welcome to MacVoices in San Jose for WWDC and AltConf. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're going to talk a little bit about the keynote results and how it affects Jamf with Michael of Jamf. Michael, it's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I thought about you during the keynote because I thought, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff here. And, you know, in this environment today, we have more and more things that need mobile device management from a corporate perspective. So are you happy over what you saw? Are you a little bit panicked over what you saw?
Yeah. Yes to both. Right?
Okay.
No, more to the former than the latter. But it's so exciting to just see all the platform features. I mean, half of what I'm interested in is just what's going to drive interest in the Apple platform, right? Because user choice is such a predominant factor these days. And there was so many compelling announcements this week around every platform, including a new one, and why people would want to choose Apple. And then, of course, by extension, more and more things for the enterprise to be concerned with in terms of managing or simplifying on behalf of users. Both of those things are very present this week.
Well, everything we see in iOS 13, I mean, it looks like they're just expanding so many capabilities, adding new capabilities. For the iPads, it seems like they're trying to push, in my opinion, it looks like they're trying to make it even more of a productivity machine and maybe a little less of a consumption machine. And I know in your world already the iPad is a productivity machine. And so does this represent any unique challenges to what you do?
Yeah, I think you're right in that it's very clearly an evolution, enough so that it deserves to be called iPad OS, right? And I was thinking about this week that, even when iPad just ran iOS, it was more uniform to the iOS ecosystem, people were using it for so many new and unique tasks, and it was becoming sort of a laptop replacement already. And with some of the things they're doing, just what we've seen in iPad OS this week, really driving a next level of whether that's productivity or just laptop replacement functionality. Windows 7 coming towards its end of life, people choosing Mac, people now choosing iPad. This really rounds out iPad as a legitimate desktop class offering for the types of work more and more people need to do. You heard Craig kind of make the joke during the keynote, two-up view of Word, that's enterprisey, but these are tasks that make iPad even more powerful for users because a lot of the tasks can be done and have been done on iPad even when it was running iOS. And now iPad OS is just going to continue to refine those sort of depth of functionality that I think a lot of users are going to love.
I'm glad you brought up Craig's comment because, I looked at that and I thought, okay, I know, he's being Craig. But at the same time, my sense is that a lot of things that the enterprise has been demanding are slowly filtering down to non-enterprise users, that they want some of those capabilities. They see the advantages of them and they want them for themselves. Does that make your job harder?
I don't think it makes our job harder. I think it makes our job more interesting. I mean, there's an aspect that onto the app developers themselves to embrace this tech, and there's a ton there for them to embrace, including all the new Swift UI and the Catalyst tech. And so there's a lot on just an individual app developer that they'll be able to take advantage of and make richer experiences. And then for us, there are some intersections of enterprise technology bringing, for instance, more legitimate single sign-on workflows, things people have wanted for a long time on iOS and iPad OS. That sort of make a further refined experience in the enterprise, to say nothing of how much more capable the applications might be.
The sign-in with Apple, what's your reaction to that, given the obvious focus you have to have on security?
Yeah, so there are two parallel things that came out this week. One is Sign In with Apple, which is really a consumer-oriented play. And so as a consumer, I'm thrilled. Every time I download an app and see Facebook or Twitter or email, I decide whether I want to use this app and whether I want to provide my email address, right? So I'm a fan of what Sign In with Apple will give me as a consumer, and I think it'll reduce a ton of friction, remove email validation, the anonymous inbound email relay. Like, I love that, right? Just great greater control over my data. In sort of a separate parallel track, there are new capabilities around single sign-on and around federated identities, and that your work email can kind of serve more functional uses throughout your day and not needing to manage these disparate accounts. That piece is more on app developers and MDM providers to support, to give the same sort of continuum of experience, the same simplicity at work that you get at home and that you get with sign-in with Apple. So both of those things are really exciting, and I'm really happy to see what they're doing in the space.
Well, at dinner the other night, I guess it was the night after the keynote, somebody brought up the fact that, okay, I'm really comfortable with Apple right now, but CEOs change, boards change, companies change, and I'm not going to bring up who they use as an example, who allegedly used to protect the data, and now they've switched their business model to selling user data. Should we be worried about that with Apple, you think?
I don't know that I'm in a position to really be able to answer that. I can share my personal view, which is that if they don't have my data in the first place, I have less to worry about should those winds change. Today, I feel very in control of what I have given and what I haven't given within the Apple ecosystem, and so there's less living on a server to be exposed. I mean, who knows what the future holds, but that, less is more to me, and just sort of reduces that potential risk and vector. There are always valid concerns out there, but I feel a lot of confidence as a consumer and as an individual using the Apple ecosystem that I'm just less exposed in general, and that's a pretty good feeling.
I think there has to be an education piece here that, okay, sign in with Apple is different than sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, even sign in with your email address. Because I never use the first two. I always use the email address. But even there can be a bit of a risk. And now that may just be going away too.
Yeah, there's definitely, I view this as an attempt to sort of capitalize on the good faith that Apple's earned with its users, reduce some of that friction. Simplicity is key to what they're doing, and a lot of people don't know what you're giving up when you sign in with your social accounts, so how can you really compare sign in with Apple to that? Does it feel different to users? To your point, a huge education piece, but hopefully, with the ease of Face ID and Touch ID and, double click to purchase and your Apple ID sort of driving all these experiences, just out of pure convenience, people also make the more secure private choice. That seems like a hopeful way this plays out to me. But yeah, we'll see.
So tell me a little bit, from your perspective, excuse me, about the state of mobile device management. It's something obviously that is required now in the enterprise. I mean, and not just for a 5,000 person organization, but sometimes a 5-person organization. Where do you see it going, and what are the trends that you're trying to address?
Yeah, I mean, there's a spectrum of observations, but one thing that we've seen over the last few years is sort of a leveling of the platforms in capabilities, right? iPad OS compared to Mac OS and just everything rising, but also in a management front, the things that we can do, maybe it was only on iOS or was only on Mac OS, more of those things are becoming consistent between the platforms. It creates a more consistent user experience and an easier task for IT. I think what we're seeing, especially this year, in addition to a continued focus on privacy and security, which is paramount for both consumers and enterprise, is an acknowledgement that there's a continuum up to the identity and down to the data stored on device. And so what we're seeing with federated accounts, with Apple Business Manager, and now your Microsoft Azure Active Directory account is what you'll be signing in with, to do user enrollment and to have your work information explicitly separate from your personal information. That's an identity layer. And, at Jamf, we've been doing some things on the identity layer as well, but it's not just about put a restriction or put an email profile. You exist in a bigger stack of tech at work. And so how does your identity sort of give a consistent, continuous experience throughout? You're seeing Apple embrace more of that, and then still retaining that privacy and security on the devices.
Mike, I've had a couple experiences with mobile device management. I've had it with Jamf. I've had it with a company that shall not be named. And not because you're standing here. The Jamf has been basically pretty seamless. I hardly even ever notice it. In fact, I'd almost say never notice it. The other one, not so much. It becomes burdensome. And not only is it inconvenient, but it gets in the way of productivity, and it gets in the way of just the desire to use these devices. Sometimes I find myself trying to find a way around using that device because I've got to deal with the way it's locked down. Is that a fair observation? I mean, it's my observation, but is it a fair observation?
I think one of the things that's important to realize with mobile device management is that it's a framework, it's a bunch of APIs, and how people choose to implement those technologies yields a pretty distinct experience, and that could be a really subtle sort of native feeling to Apple, like not a difference in the way you have to work or the way you need to fight your device. We aspire to embrace the Apple native technologies and not deal with app containers and use this mail app, even though you love Apple Mail, you got to use this one. Like, they're just different approaches in how you can achieve the goal of protecting your data and securing your devices. We've always tried to align with the intent that Apple has. And so if you use the analogy of this API, it's the pantry, and we can all shop at the same grocery store, but how we craft our recipes, how we create experiences for users, the goal is to empower them to retain all that makes an Apple device an Apple experience, and not dilute that to some lower common denominator for the sake of single pane of glass or something. Not diminishing that approach. There are times where you want that unified view, but how do we embrace that experience that people chose an Apple device to have and not take away from that? That's something we really strive to do.
Well, and I think you achieve it, again, based on my experience. Now, there are plenty of different people that have different views on everything, but I applaud that, because I just look, when I was told what I was going to be using, it's like, can't I use Jamf, please? No, sorry. And so, I guess it's just the way it is, but and everybody's out there competing in the free market. So the website, of course, is
Jamf.com, is that the website you're going for?
That's the one I was looking for, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
And it's mobile device management. Again, go over the tiers of service, because there is a free tier.
Yeah, so we've actually got a number of products now. For a long time it was just Jamf Pro, the tool for enterprise, sort of the Swiss Army knife of device management. Recognizing how many businesses are saying, I also need to do some IT stuff, but I'm not an IT person, we introduced Jamf Now, which is a really simple, free to start, 3 devices free forever, very simple interface to use. So Jamf Now serves that entry level and people that don't have complex needs, while Pro continues to serve the complexity of a large school district or an enterprise. And then we have a distinct Jamf School product as well now, which is really focused on teacher empowerment and education. Jamf Nation is the largest online community of Apple administrators, and Jamf Connect serves as kind of an identity solution that fits with many of those products. So yeah, we've really evolved to having a portfolio of products around protecting and preserving and creating the best Apple experience possible, whether in school or at work, no matter the size. You can learn all about it at jamf.com.
Perfect. Michael, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks, Chuck.
Folks, we'll have more from WWDC and AltConf in San Jose. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.